I'm not sure if you know what it's like to have an arch nemesis out there in the world. I have 5. And the one thing that they all have in common is they're all dirty dog liars. So let's talk about what we can learn from that. Many of you have left comments and questions asking about being a strategist, the work itself, tips and tricks of the trade, and then also asking how do you become a strategist? And I have to say that I don't really know the answer to that question. I know how I became a strategist, and I am going to be working on a video to explain that. Bear with me, it's going to take a few weeks. That video actually has a script. It is very long and intense, so it's a labor of love, and hopefully you'll enjoy it when you see it. But the work itself is actually pretty easy and straightforward, right? Assessing a situation, not ultimately very difficult. It can be intense, and it can be extremely time consuming, and it can be frustrating. But at the end of the day, I am not a polymath. I like basic arithmetic. I like to break things down as simply as possible. So assessment, as straightforward to the root of the issue as possible. Determining solutions, also typically very straightforward, very, very simple. Implementation, completely different story altogether. That's where things really become a challenge, and you are really actively quarterbacking, trying to get something through to the end zone. And sometimes you get there, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get, knocked over, and when you wake up, you're actually playing tennis. So that's kind of what it's like. For me personally, just as a person in the world, how I have experienced the world in my body, in my identities, and then also as a strategist, don't nothing burn me more than a liar. Nothing incenses me more than a liar. Now, everybody lies. We all lie. I lied yesterday. Somebody wanted me to sit in a very hot office in the middle of summer at 4:30 in the afternoon with no air conditioning. I'm sorry, I already have something on my calendar. I'm not going to do that. Everybody lies. That's just a part of life. It's a part of our society. It's a part of, often, even if we don't even think about it, it's a part of our personality, how we get through a day, a situation, a life, a relationship, a job. It's just a part of who we are, particularly in American society. But I think we can all agree that there are degrees of lies, of course. You've got kind of the, what folks would consider the innocent lies. You've got great exaggerations. Fish tales, right? How big was that fish? How long did you struggle on the line with it? All of those. And then we step into where my nemesis lie. And no, I'm not going to name names. That would be boring. And we can have way more fun with this over time than just naming names. But there are 5 of them. And as I said, what they all have in common is that they are liars. They have used lies to hurt or harm people or groups of people, from 1 to 5 to 50 to a couple thousand to a couple 100,000 to a couple million. Yes, I have a personal string to all of them. And please don't bother hopping into my comments and lecturing me about blood pressure or forgiveness or what's good for me. Trust me when I say you are in a better situation, because I have the memory of an elephant and a great safe deposit box. Lies of omission. We're trying to establish the facts and you're leaving things out. You might not be directly lying, but if the full facts were brought to bear, it would certainly make it look like you didn't tell the truth. Well, that didn't even happen at all now, did it? That's just a complete fabrication. Completely made up. Stories are facts that have no basis in reality whatsoever. Designed to deceive or manipulate other people. Blatant lies. Just direct, obvious, clearly, demonstrably a lie. Malicious lies. You wake up every day a shitty person, intent on fucking something up for somebody else with a malicious, plotted out lie. In life, but particularly in trying to solve problems that are impacting humans in a terrible way. When somebody lies, they have stepped outside of the typically agreed upon rules of engagement for how to resolve issues. And that is infuriating. And it typically happens in these ways. Just, we're trying to establish baseline of facts here. Things are being omitted as a strategy on the other side to get people to believe a certain narrative. This is just annoying, I will just say. It is annoying use of time to have to beat down straight up fabrications. Like, please, spare us. We literally have better things to do with our time as professionals and as people and as a society. Same. But then this. Oh, yes. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happens when the lie becomes the strategy. As the beginning of this video made very clear, this man is a liar. He intentionally lied to the public about being an abuser, specifically of Cassie Ventura. Information about Diddy has been around for years. Information and stories, not even years, decades. Decades. And I will say that much like I was relieved that the R. Kelly situation was finally coming to a place of account, I am relieved to see that this appears to be trending towards potential exposure and accountability. The decision to lie was malicious. It was premeditated. It was thought out. It was the chosen strategy. If I were guessing, I would say that based on his decades of experience in the industry and in various legal scenarios, he knows exactly what to and not to say in certain situations. And instead, he decided to focus on a position that leaves him no room to move. A lie. And now we can all see that it was a lie. And so what does he do now? The public saw the video. And oftentimes when this happens, when celebrity or people of obscene wealth or influence lie, and then you see the evidence that they were lying, like the video, the public is like, well, what would he lie? Why would he lie? Why did he tell that lie? There's literally a video of it. Why would he do that? I said in another video, and this is something that I personally live by and something that, frames my mind for the work that I do, that people do what works for them, whether it's right, whether it's true, whether it's healthy, whether it is safe. People do what works for them. Now, it can be right, healthy, and safe, but it can also not be those things. But at the end of the day, from moment to moment, situation to situation, no matter who they are dealing with, no matter if they know them or not, no matter if they love them or not, people do what works for them. And I would imagine that in Sean's mind, he did not allow himself to fully think about what would happen when, not if, because again, information about this man has been around for decades. This ain't it. This is just what is now proven. And I say proven because it doesn't matter that the lawsuit was dismissed. This was cited in the lawsuit. We've seen the video. He did not allow himself to think about how his reality would change when these truths about him started to surface in an undeniable way, because he couldn't stomach it. He wasn't strong enough. He knows that life exists, and it's so horrifying that the only thing that he could allow himself to plot out was, they can never know. I can keep this contained, and therefore I will deny anything and everything, which was the wrong move and completely stupid, because now he has to deal with the real consequences of his actions. When you decide to tell an absolute lie, such as yes or no, that happened, that didn't happen, you have to think very hard about two things. Number one, all the ways that your lie can be disproven. Number two, as I alluded to previously, the full consequences of the lie being discovered. And I would add, number three, the position you are in, right? The lie puts you in one position. The lie being discovered puts you in a different position. So you have to think about what position that is going to be, because when, you should just assume when your absolute lie is discovered, that's the position that you're going to be working from. Now, it would appear, based on this, that Mr. Combs has some issues. Absolutely got my attention when Homeland Security raided multiple properties of his. Cassie's lawsuit, which I downloaded and read myself and deemed credible when I finished the last word. Cassie's lawsuit has a bunch of criminal liability red flags in it. So this was not entirely surprising at all. If this investigation, they're not serving warrants, they're not investigating you. If this investigation or investigations leads to criminal prosecution, Diddy can never testify in his own defense, because the first question that a prosecuting attorney is going to ask him is, are you a liar? And the answer is yes, unless you want to add perjury to it. Would you lie to the public to protect your family and your reputation? Yes. Would you lie to the public about beating a woman to protect your family and your reputation? Yes. Would you lie to the public about forcing or otherwise coercing a woman to ingest substances to make her more susceptible to your advances or harms? Yes. He cannot get up in a court of law and say anything. And I'm sure there is some clever defense attorney out there who thinks, well, if I get to question him first, and if I make the preemptive strike, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Your client is a liar. He has no credibility. He has no credibility with the public. And from the onset of a prosecutorial case, He's going to be fighting for credibility with even the most impartial jury. So that's not going to work. He told an absolute lie and put himself in a position of the equivalent of, I refuse to negotiate. That's what an absolute lie is. When you tell an absolute lie, there's no room for negotiation. So you told a lie to avoid having to suffer the destruction of your empire and a severely humiliating and very real ego death. And now, here we are. And that is one of the reasons why people lie, is to avoid something that stresses them out, causes them pain, or is an extreme consequence for something that it's, again, the most natural go-to act of self-defense is the lie. But if it puts you in a worse off position, that's not the strategy to go with. The statements that he made publicly before his so-called heartfelt apology, he was mad. He was mad because the egg had fully been cracked. I would never. I'm being attacked. I've been sitting in silence, as if he's practicing restraint. Right? He's practicing restraint to not get on the keyboard and speak his mind. But he beat a woman's ass in a hotel hallway and arguably held her against her will. And now he cannot defend himself. His lawyer could have just as easily said, Mr. Combs is glad to put this incident behind him and wishes her well. Nope, he was mad that he had lost control of the situation because of her. As a woman, I know what that's like. Just in general. Lost control of the situation because of her. Those statements came from anger, an irrational anger, an ego anger, not a place of strategy. But the lie, the absolute lie, oh yes, that was the strategy. And now he can't get up in a court of law and defend himself. And if you're wondering what my advice would be, I don't tend to advise pieces of shit, but my advice would be, you better plead to anything and everything that you can. If you want to shorten the length of pain and suffering and discomfort, humiliation and embarrassment you and your family are about to go through, I would settle everything over here and plead to everything over there. And then prepare for everything after that to be different forever than what it was before. It may get back to a similarity, but as we have discussed with other people going through catastrophic situations right now, there is a before and there is an after. And Mr. Combs may not realize it, but he has already stepped both feet into the process of the after. But let's park that for now and flip sides and talk about, what do you do when somebody has lied and you know it? If someone causes you harm in your life there are two things that you are going to want to do at the time that it happens. Number one, if at all possible, tell somebody. Tell somebody in your life. If you can't tell somebody, and even if you can tell somebody, write it down. Who, what, where, when. As much detail as possible. If there's other corroborating evidence of your experience, keep it or catalog it in some way. Sometimes it takes a very, 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 very long time. Sometimes never. Sometimes it just takes a very, very, very long time to get some kind of justice or accountability or closure. And I think a lot of people thought that based on Diddy's behavior and his persona and him still consistently dropping her name all these years later, whenever he's in interviews or getting an award or whatever, that's an ongoing harassment and intimidation that is actually being done in front of everybody. It doesn't really get any more effective than that. And my read on it is this woman clearly wanted some peace and relief and wanted it to stop. She had the information. She had witnesses. And she was able to find an attorney who was willing to take her case. And beyond that, was actually willing to file it in a court of law. Now, typically, and I don't know, I have no inside information on this situation, but I can just say typically in my experience, before there is a filing in court, typically the attorney representing the plaintiff reaches out to the attorney representing the defendant. Sometimes it's for, hey, hi, I'm here. And sometimes it's for technical reasons, like we're doing this, preserve these documents or whatever. There's many reasons. But I do not suspect that this lawsuit being filed was necessarily a complete shock. I think that he thought that she wouldn't do it. And that's why I was very careful to say she was able to find an attorney. Sometimes you got to call more than one. Sometimes you got to call more than three. You never know what a lawyer is dealing with on any given day when you call them. They might just be having a shitty day. They might not be understanding what your issue is. So you also have to learn how to really talk about it objectively and lay out what it is that they're listening for so that they understand. A lot of people are just like, oh, they hear the name of a rich person and they're like, it's a money grab. No, that's a liability if you file a bullshit lawsuit. I'm backing away from the mic so I'm not hopefully yelling as loudly in your ear. No. Do some lawyers do that? Do they stretch it? Sure. But is it a general practice? No. No. You do not want to deal with the Bar Association or the Supreme Court in your state where you practice. Lawyers don't want that smoke. Their insurance is expensive enough. They want proof. They want proof. And there's also an assumption that lawyers overwhelmingly just take cases to bluff and get a settlement. Sure, those lawyers exist out there, sure. But good lawyers expect that when they take a client and they take a case, that they will be doing this. They will be filing documents on the public record for everybody to see, and then they will be going into a court of law and they will be arguing out their case. And from the onset, they are looking for whether or not it's winnable. So the mere fact that it was filed by my eye, and after I read it, finished it, closed it, credible. Believe it. 100%. Either this is true or he's going to get disbarred. And a bunch of other things are going to happen. I don't care about celebrity gossip. That does not interest me. And it is extremely disappointing to see how many people are willing to stoke the flames of, is it true? Is it not true? What do you think? Oh my gosh, it's so, I mean, this, it must be entertainment. These are real people's lives. And this woman has been beaten and tortured and then basically stalked and harassed by one of the most powerful people in the music industry. Well, she's out there married, having kids, just trying to live her life after the path that she set herself on was completely obliterated. And she had proof that he lied. And I would imagine it's just me. But I think you're starting to get a sense of my personality, particularly in what I've said in this video, that if I were Cassie and I saw those statements by his lawyer, I saw him, if I were Cassie or frankly, anyone else who has allegedly experienced abuse or exploitation by this man, I would be like, I've got photos and text messages and I'm going to have to call. I need to call somebody. Are you kidding me? How fuck? You got some mother. You gonna lie? You gonna lie on my name? You gonna have your little friends out here lying? I don't fucking think so. How about that? Yeah. It's infuriating. It is infuriating. And in certain circumstances, it will break you. It will break you. And it will break you multiple times in different places and in different ways. And then in other circumstances, it will motivate you. It will motivate you like you have never been motivated for anything else in your life. That you are willing to do this. To say, checkmate, I call bullshit on your strategy. You are actually in the corner. I've got the whole board to play. Hey, dumbass.